Hello and welcome. For today's video we are going to look at the eye, some of the labels on it, how to correct long and short sightedness, and we're going to do a quick comparison of the eye with the camera. Now the first part is actually labeling the different parts of the eye, and this is quite straightforward, so we won't spend too long on it. It's just actually memory work, so let's just get through that quite quickly. We have the lens, which is this light grey part here. This has the job of focusing the light rays. In front of the eye we have the cornea, and this is a transparent part that allows the light to go in. It's not the white part of the eye that you see when you look in someone's eyes, but it's actually the part right in front of the lens and the iris. The iris is the slightly darker grey part labelled here, and if you're looking at someone's eyes or your own in the mirror, you can see that the iris is the part that gives your eye the colour. The pupil is the dark spot right in the middle, and that's where the light gets into the eye. And we also have at the back of the eye something called the retina, and that's where all images are focused onto, and those will then send the images to the brain to be worked out by the brain in terms of what you're looking at. Two more labels we have then are the ciliary muscles. And the ciliary muscles on this diagram I've just labelled as that little round spot, but if you imagine your thumb and your forefinger in the shape of a circle or in an O shape, that's what the ciliary muscles are like. They actually go around the lens and help to change its shape. And just quickly, the way they do that is, if you look here, if the ciliary muscles are contracted, the lens is shorter and thicker, and if they're relaxed, the lens is wider and thinner, and that contributes to how the light rays are focused on the eye. The last quick label is the suspensory ligaments, and these are just ligaments that help to hold the lens in place, and they also contribute a little bit to changing the shape of the lens. Okay, so that's just a little bit of memory work that you have to get through, that you have to know for the exam. What we're going to look at next is this idea of short sight and long sight, and what we can do to help correct that. But firstly, the thing to remember is that someone who is short-sighted, one of the possible reasons for that is if they have an eyeball that's slightly too long. It could also be because the lens is not able to focus the light rays properly, but another reason is the eyeball being slightly too long. And this is what happens. We have light rays coming in from a distance, and what happens is the light rays are focused, but they are over focused, and the image is focused in a position before the retina. So by the time the image gets to the retina, or the light rays get to the retina, the image is quite blurry. Similarly with long sight, this is when we have a short eyeball, and this results in our object, the light rays coming from our object, but the image is focused somewhere behind the retina, and again not on the retina, so again you get a blurry image. So the key thing here is not to get confused with these descriptions. We've got short sight is a long eyeball, and long sight is a short eyeball. Someone who is short-sighted has no difficulty with objects that are near, they have difficulties with seeing things that are further away, and the opposite way around for long-sighted people. Now what can we do about this? Well, we can use lenses to help correct vision. So here is our person with short sight, and they've got a slightly longer eyeball, and you can see here that the image is being focused before it reaches the retina. So if we use a diverging lens, or a if we use a diverging or a concave lens, that will spread the light rays out a little bit. I've done them in red here. They don't actually change color, but this is just so you can see. But the light rays are spread a little bit, they are diverged, so that the image will then focus correctly on the retina, and you'll see a much sharper image of what you're looking at. With our long sight, we don't use a concave lens, we use a convex lens. So we use a convex lens, and that will then, rather than cause the image to be focused behind the retina, it will cause it to be focused exactly the right place, just by helping the eye lens along with bringing the light rays closer together. Okay, so again we can see a much sharper image. So when we wear glasses for long sight and short sight, it depends on which one you have, but the lens will also be determined by what kind of correction you need in terms of your eyesight. The next slide I've just done is description of what we just talked about. You've just got it all on the same slide, so that you can, if you've printed out the notes from the website, you've got them as a comparison next to each other. The last thing I want to do quickly is to compare the camera with the eye. Now these are both designed to create an image. With the camera, it works a little bit like this. We've got a converging lens, or a converging lens with a fixed focus, so our lens can't change shape and it can't change the way it focuses the light rays, but we can change the focus by varying the lens position, so it can be moved slightly forwards or backwards, and that will help to focus our image sharply onto the back there. The image is usually focused on a film, but nowadays more so with digital cameras on what we call a CCD. That's more for digital cameras. We came across this when we were talking about producing X-rays as well. And the brightness is controlled by the aperture and the diaphragm. So that looks a little bit like this. If you look at the front of a camera, we've got our aperture, which is that slightly bluey color. Sorry, the diaphragm is the bluey color, and the aperture is the hole in the middle. So this is a bit like our iris and our pupil. In terms of our eye, we've got a converging lens with a variable focus, and we've looked at that previously. The lens can actually change its shape because it's quite a flexible object. We can focus as well by the contraction of our ciliary muscles, so the ciliary muscles will change the shape of the lens as opposed to the lens moving backwards and forwards in the camera. We also have the image focus on the retina at the back. The equivalent for that is the film or the CCD in the camera, and we can control brightness by the iris and, I should say, also pupil. Okay, so these are the things that vary. We also have one thing that they both have in common, and that is the kind of image that is created, and this is quite important. Both of those, both the camera and the lights, create an image that is real, it's inverted, and it's diminished. So by real, we mean it's not a virtual image. It can actually be projected onto a screen here. It's inverted, which means it's upside down. Your eye does actually have an upside down image on the back, but when it sends that message to the brain, that's sorted out for you, and the image is diminished. So in other words, it's smaller than the actual object, and the magnification is always less than 1. Okay, so that's an overview of the eye. I've gone through that quite quickly. Lots to take in, so you might need to just go over the video again, or at least maybe look at the notes just to cover the different aspects that we've been looking at.